Hello and welcome to the ATRA webinar on Introduction to Programming Part 1. My name is Keith Clark and I am an ATRA Technical Advisor. I'll be your presenter for today. Today's presentation is sponsored by Seal Aftermarket Products. We appreciate their support in helping us bring to you technical training through this webinar.
Seal Aftermarket Products engineers and manufactures Toledo Transkit, the most trusted and complete kits in the industry for 25 years. Toledo Transkit gives you more critical components, more OE components, like premium seals and gaskets, more design enhancements, patented components, and all the little extras you won't find elsewhere. At Seal Aftermarket Products, we don't just make kits, we make kits better. Toledo Transkit is the #1 choice of installers because of all the intensive research and development that goes into each component in every kit. Like re-engineered valve body gaskets, preventing EPC damage by eliminating the shredding you get from original equipment. Plus, all of the extra essentials that are included, like spring and screen filters that should be changed at overhaul. Toledo Transkit even includes loose valve body gaskets that fit all 19 bonded separator plates. When servicing Honda and Acura transmissions, shaft nuts are quite often damaged during removal. Toledo Transkit provides all the main shaft, secondary shaft, and counter shaft nuts, so you don't have to try to reuse the originals or pay extra for them at the dealer. Honda Acura kits also include valve body screen filters, pressure tap washers, and other important components like bolt locks, roll pins, and pistons. What you get is a complete kit with great fit and no wasted time or worry about ordering extra parts. If you want the best sealing transmission kit in the industry, ask for Toledo Transkit by name.
Okay, again, thanks to our sponsor. Any questions or comments, please send emails to webinars@atra.com. Any questions that you may have during the webinar, please feel free to enter them on the box on the right side of your screen at any time. We have several webinars scheduled throughout the year. We're introducing new units and covering several topics on diagnosing and rebuilding. Shown here is our current schedule. If you missed a webinar, no worries. The information will be available for members on the ATRA website. If you signed up for a webinar and you can't attend, you can still receive the handout material and watch the webinar at a later time at your convenience. We are bringing you the future of training to your fingertips. Save the date. ATRA's Powertrain Expo for 2016 is being held at Paris Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, October 27th through the 30th. This is a 4-day event that you don't want to miss. It features the industry's best and brightest minds bringing you the latest cutting-edge information available. You will not find an event that compares. If you want to take your technical or management skills to the next level, you owe it to yourself to be there. Call ATRA today and reserve your spot. Now, let's begin today's presentation, Introduction to Programming Part 1. Today, we are going to be going through a brief history on the J2534 standard. Then we'll introduce some terms to know. And finally, we will navigate the OEM websites. First of all, what is a J2534? Basically, it's a standard that was developed by the SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, in 2004. It sets guidelines for vehicle programming, data acquisition, protocol, and communications. Basically, it allows us as the aftermarket to access OEM programming and allows us to download it and actually upload it into vehicles without using the OEM tools, but aftermarket compatible tools, which significantly reduces the cost as far as if we want to tool up for it and actually perform programming on our own. Now, this is the law of the land for all vehicles that are imported and sold in the United States of America. However, just because it's the law doesn't mean that everybody is in compliance. So just to keep in mind, not everybody's playing by the rules. As a matter of fact, most of the time, most non-compliance issues exist on the programming level, and the engineers are usually at fault as far as concerns on that level. J1962. This refers to the actual OBD2 connector like we refer to it in the industry. And this is the physical interface and the standard that applies to it. And the pin designations are going to be standard on all OBD2 connectors. Now, one thing to make a notation of, there are some what they call Class C and higher or heavier trucks. That'll be anything gross vehicle weight 20,000 pounds or greater that will have a connector that looks like this, but it's not the automotive OBD2 connector. It's going to be a commercial OBD2 connector, which will have a different designation, and thereby you cannot plug your scan tool in and get information in the same manner. So just to keep that in mind so it's not mistaken. Here we have a pin assignment where we can actually indicate what system we're working on just by the active pins, as we will see in the preceding slides. Note, unassigned pins are left at the discretion of the OEM. Now, when diagnosing these systems, no matter what format is used, pin 16 is always going to be our power, pin 4 is always going to be our ground. When verifying the bus operation, we always want to make sure that our ground is good. We want to make sure that we do a voltage drop test on pin 4 with the key on, engine off, or key on, engine running. So we want to load that circuit and make sure there's going to be a solid ground. It's going to be very important for programming. Now, I just want to review voltage drop test on that. So we take our voltmeter, take our red lead, and place it in pin 4. And then we're going to take our black lead and we're going to get a ground reference directly off of our battery to our black lead. And we're going to set our voltmeter to 12 voltage setting, DC volts, and we're going to turn our key on, engine off, or have it running either way. And we're going to look for 1/10 of a volt or less. This is very critical. As a matter of fact, this is one of the #1 causes for programming failures. So, and it can be as bad as possibly bricking the computer if we don't have a good power and a good ground. Now, there's going to be 5 major languages or communication protocols that we will encounter in programming. J1850 pulse width modulated format, which is going to be used by Ford. J1850 variable pulse width modulation, used by General Motors. The ISO 9141, used by Chrysler and most foreign Asian manufacturers. And ISO 14230, or Keyword Processing 2000, which is used by most European manufacturers like BMW and Mini. The ISO 15765, otherwise known as CAN bus, which is the latest and greatest, which is used by the majority of the domestic as well as foreign OEM at this present date. There are other programming formats that are coming out, which of course we're not going to have access to immediately. However, at later dates, they will come into play in the whole scheme of things. Just to keep in mind, this is a moving target and it's advancing just like computer technology does. And it's important for us to keep in mind the protocol that we have that applies to our vehicle, because our hardware selection will depend on that, because we have to make sure that it can communicate with the various languages that we're expecting to work on. Note, ISO stands for the International Organization of Standards. It's the largest international group regulation for the rest of the world. As a matter of fact, ISO works closely with SAE in keeping compliance issues to a minimum by creating these standards and actually interacting with each other for the requirements. J1850. This is a domestic standard primarily. GM and Ford, of course, they use this standard. There's two speeds at which the J1850 format communicates at. You got a low and high speed as indicated below. And we have the pulse width modulated as well as the variable pulse width modulation formats that exist with that. Again, this is going to be primarily for the majority of the domestic applications that are local. Now, when looking for proper communication on the data bus lines, we might have to verify that our data bus lines are actually active and they're actually functioning. Especially if we had a situation where there were U codes or we can't have any communication with our tool, our equipment, we might have to actually go in and verify that there is activity. By using a digital voltmeter or an oscilloscope, we can do that and actually see the activity. As a matter of fact, in the preceding slides, we're going to see what kind of activity we're expecting on the different formats that are available. The J1850 pulse width modulated format is a 2-wire standard, and we have the pin designations as listed below. Our bus positive is going to be pin 2. Bus negative is pin 10. Now, if we look at the graph on the right-hand side, that's going to denote what we're going to see with a digital voltmeter or an oscilloscope if we actually look at these two signals. And we should get something similar to this. Again, it's a 5-volt reference that we're going to be looking at, and it should look similar to what we see here in the graph. Now, J1850 variable pulse width modulated, it's a 1-wire system where the bus positive signal is going to come in at pin 2. Now, this is a 7-volt system. Now notice we don't have a bus negative on this. With the single wire systems, ground becomes very critical as far as looking at the signal and the signal integrity itself. So the actual bus signal can be compromised by a poor ground. So just to keep that in mind as far as how important the ground side of things is on this. ISO 9141-2, this also is a single wire system. Now, as we notice on the graph on the lower right, it happens to be a 12-volt signal that we're looking at. And ISO being foreign, they call their data line the K line. And that's going to be indicated at pin number 7. And it's going to be a bidirectional type signal. In other words, we have send and receive at pin 7, all that data coming through there. Now we also have the addition of an L line on pin 15. Now the L line is going to be a unidirectional signal that's given to the modules, either ECU, TCM. Basically, it's going to allow us to wake up and put to sleep modules for various bidirectional control purposes or programming. And that will be available at the OEM's discretion as well. ISO 14230, Keyword Processing 2000. This protocol is very similar to the 9141-2. Basically, we still have the 12-volt signal that we're going to be looking at, and it's going to be coming in at pin 7. They call it a K line as well. We also have the L line available at pin 15 for this format. Now, the difference between the 9141 and the ISO 14230 KWP 2000 is that we have a higher bit rate. In other words, we got more information on the send receive on that pin 7. So again, we're going to make sure that our ground is stable. It's going to be extremely important. A single wire system really depends on a stable ground at all times. And finally, we have the ISO 15765, otherwise known as CAN bus. This format is one of the latest protocols, and most OEM, both foreign and domestic, are using this. We have the CAN high at pin 6 and the CAN low at pin 14. Notice on the lower right-hand side, we have a lower voltage span on this. And it's very important to know that, of course, in this case, ground and voltage are very critical, especially with the short distance it is from the on and off as far as the voltage difference. It's more critical that we have the accurate voltage as well as ground. Now, once we have established what kind of protocol our vehicle has, then we can use this information to ensure that our pass-through device is compatible for programming. We will cover hardware requirements in part 2 of this webinar. Navigating the OEM sites. The manufacturers simply comply with the J2534 standard. Okay, it's the law, so if they are importing vehicles or if they have cars that are sold here in the United States of America, this law applies to them. So they have to provide the hardware and the software compatibility with their vehicle. So with that in mind, when we're navigating the websites here, also, we have to make sure that we have software available for download for our vehicle. We don't want to purchase a subscription before we actually verify that information. Now, some manufacturers will require you to do this no matter what. However, we still have options. We can go to All Data, Mitchell On Demand, ShopKey, and also a website, www.revbase.com, as listed in the information. And we can look up this information that can give us whether or not there is software pertinent and available to our application. And there will be reference material and bulletins that will be available. Again, we might have to ultimately purchase a subscription to actually lay our hands on some of this information just based on OEM's willingness to make it available. Now, prior to downloading the OEM software, we have to look at our current level of software that's in our computer, either TCM or ECM. Now, in order to do that, we want to look at our information from our scan tool. If we go into OBD2 or EOBD generic, and we enter mode 9, then that will give us not only the vehicle identification number that's actually calibrated in the modules if it's available, but also give us the calibration verification numbers, which will be software related information, as well as other program identifiers that will be necessary to match with OEM software to verify that we do have a need to update or reprogram. Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Plymouth, Eagle. These are all under the under www.techauthority.com. Now, by entering this in our web browser, that's going to take us to a main page for Tech Authority. Now, once we get to the main page on Tech Authority, of course, doesn't give you a whole lot of information, no bells and whistles, but we're looking for that 4-letter F word, free. So we don't see that anywhere around. But if we go to the online subscriptions, where the yellow arrow is, and we click on that selection, that takes us to a page here that is going to prompt us to select some stuff to buy. We still don't want to buy anything. We want to do some window shopping. So if we select one of the products here, I happen to use, for an example, TA User 03 Day, which is a 3-day Tech Authority subscription. Costs $35, but I don't want to put anything out of my pocket. I just want to pick it up and handle it a little bit. And basically that'll take us to a screen where it still wants money, but we don't want to give them money because we want to see what they have to offer. We go to this page and it enables us to get more information, and we can scroll down and actually come to a section that gives us more information for free. Now finally, hidden at the very bottom, we see flash availability. We have two selections, one for Chrysler and one for J2534 pass-through device, which is what we're going to be looking at here. So we want to look at the J2534 pass-through device information. If we click on that selection, all of a sudden we see a gold mine. This is where Chrysler hides all of their information, their knowledge base, they call it. And if you look at the gray section on the left-hand side, there's a lot of subsections. Everything is accessible at this point in time. You don't have to purchase, you don't have to pull any money out of your pocket to get to this information. And not only do they have support for the J2534 tool, but they have troubleshooting for problems you might run into if you're not able to download the software. There's communication issues, programming stops, abnormal programming stops. They give you everything that you, just about everything that you need. If you're going to have a problem, you can find and look it up here on the Chrysler knowledge base, which is wonderful. So again, it's very nice that Chrysler does this. And then finally, if we scroll down a little bit further, then we come to the information that we're looking for free, which is there programming available for the vehicle that I'm working on. So if we click on this and notice this little link is a PDF file. Now that means you can print it and keep a copy, but this is something that changes quite regularly. As a matter of fact, at the time when I produced this, it was updated to February 19th. So this is a regularly updated file by Chrysler. So you don't want to just rely on that one PDF to keep you going through programming, because that will change. So if we click on that link, then it takes us to actually about 100 plus pages of updates and availability for applications for Chrysler. Now, not only does it give you updated software, but it gives you the vehicle that applies to, as well as if it's a TCM or ECM or PCM. Gives you the part numbers of the module, as well as the latest part number for that module, and then any technical service bulletins or recalls that apply to the software that's available, which we can look up on either by Google, or we can look it up on the website. Now, I chose the 2005 Dodge Charger with a NAG1 transmission for an example. And this application not only covers the Charger, but it also covers the Magnum and the 300. Here we see it's a TCM software update that's available, and it gives you the modules that will be compatible for programming. Now, it's very important to know this listing of modules is going to allow us to actually cross-reference, especially if somebody happened to get in there and change the module out. It'll give us a cross-reference of modules that will work with this application. Be advised that you can have the wrong module in there and you'll probably have codes that you can't get rid of, and you probably will be able to program this module, but it won't work because it's not a number that this application recognizes. So again, these part numbers are all the part numbers that are expected to match with the application. Again, we have the latest part number available too, and all the technical service bulletins that apply to this vehicle. Now, as far as matching the parts numbers up are concerned, we can look and actually see what level of update we have with the hardware. Again, we don't have to update this to program. The hardware is secondary unless there is a bulletin that states that there is a faulty part number, in which case we might want to indicate that and look at the necessary bulletins to advise us accordingly of a situation like that. But after we indicate what part number that we have and everything, we can look at the bulletins that are available, and we see in this case the purpose for the reflash, which in this case we have a shift hesitation during wide open throttle. That's what this programming is supposed to actually correct. So with that in mind, we have all the information we need. We have the software is available. We have the part number reference, and we have the bulletins. We can go ahead and go to the website and purchase a subscription and download the programming. Now, on some of the Chrysler applications, specifically when the PCM is reprogrammed or replaced from 1998 models 2007, not all models, but some of them, you might need to initialize the PCM. Now, this process is outlined in the technical service bulletin at the bottom of this page, technical service bulletin number 8-03006, revision A, and it'll give you a complete listing of the vehicles where this applies to. Now, this will require the use of a DRB3 scan tool. Now, either you can take it to the dealership and have them do it, or you can actually rent one. If you call 1-800, the 1-800 number, that'll give you the Chrysler OEM source for doing that, or you can go to Control Technologies. We have that telephone number listed as well. And what they will give you is they will lease you or rent you this scan tool. It'll be fully updated on the firmware side, which is extremely important. And you can perform your initialization process. You can even actually do some reprogramming with the DRB3, which is going to be something we're going to cover in brief in part 2 of programming. So just to keep that in mind, that is an option. Also, for those of you who love to be frugal and go on eBay and find deals, you can find DRB3s on eBay. I located some. However, buyer beware. Not all DRB3 tools are updatable. Some of them are relics and they're bricks and they can't be updated. So unless you want to do some extensive homework and see the requirements that are necessary on the hardware side to get a hold of a useful DRB3 at a good deal. You don't want to go in there blind and just buy the lowest price DRB3 that you might see on eBay. Okay, this would be a good safe option here by just leasing it. No problems, no worries. Okay, Ford, Mercury, Lincoln. They're all covered under the motorcraftservice.com website. If you click on this link, it will bring you to the Motorcraft site. And on the Motorcraft site, we're going to go directly to the main page. And on the main page, we're going to select reprogramming and initialization. Now, once we hit that selection, it's going to take us to the latest calibration information. Now, on the latest calibration information, we're going to, again, that's a little bit down on the screen, so we're going to travel a little bit down with our scroll bar and select that. And that's going to take us to the latest calibration information link in the upper left-hand corner here. We're going to hit search calibration by vehicle, model year, and engine. We click on that link, and it's going to take us to the lower right box here, where we just enter our vehicle information, model year, and engine size. And with that in mind, that's going to take us to a similar page that we were at on the Chrysler site. And we're going to have the part number of the hardware. We're going to have the module type. In this case, I just punched in a Lincoln LS model year 2004 with a 3.9 liter motor. And it's also going to give you the catch phrase or the catchword, like Ford likes to call it. It's going to be like a 4-character code that they use, so at a glance you can identify what module you're dealing with. And with that in mind, and also you're going to have the software numbers that are going to be expected from your mode 9 information, again, from your if you use the OB2 portion of your scan tool and get that mode 9 information, it's going to give you the software that's encoded in the PCM module in this case. Now, with this information at hand, you can start matching your numbers and making sure that you have proper modules. Again, used modules has been more and more of an issue in programming than anything, because all these junkyards have these modules, and some people don't match the numbers, they just match the looks, and these things will plug in and they'll seem like they want to work, but something won't work right. And you might be the victim of trying to program something like that. So before you go too far and there's problems and it look like somebody swapped out a module on there, you got the yellow paint, look at the numbers, see what you got before you get into any headaches. Now, once we verify that we have software available, we got the right hardware, everything's in line, then we can go in and actually hit purchase program. We go back to the reprogram initialization screen, and we can actually purchase. If we go to the lower right-hand corner of that screen, and that'll take us through the prompts that we need to go through to actually retrieve the proper programming and actually purchase it and download it. One thing I did want to mention before I go into the General Motors section, Ford does offer extensive support, much like Chrysler does, through the IDS portion of the website. Again, that's going to be a free section on the Ford website. Again, if it's it's going to be under Ford IDS, and they will offer a lot of support for the aftermarket scan tool for downloading Ford programs and programming with the programs. General Motors. We can go into the General Motors programming website several different ways. As a matter of fact, Tist2Web is the main driving website for actual programs as far as searching for program availability. However, I like going in through this website in particular. Through my research, I found out that this was the most interactive way to get there. And I like this because if you're not used to programming, this gives you the most options. It's the most user-friendly. If you go through this website listed, it's going to take you to a main page that's going to give you a toolbox that'll give you a whole lot of information, and they have newsletters and everything that are related to programming topics, and it's really user-friendly again. Now, as far as on the programming side, we want to go directly to Tist2Web, okay, where the red arrow is here. If we click on that, basically it's going to take us to another website specific to programming. Now, with this, there's some tutorials. There's a lot of information listed on this page. So this is like a preview page to the actual, I call the bland, dry Tist2Web. Find your information, monotone. Okay, this gives you a little bit more, so you can actually look and see how the Tist2Web website works and how to program. They give you a whole lot of information here. Now, moving forward, what we would want to do is actually look up our vehicle calibration on the screen here. And where the yellow arrow is, if we click on this link, again, it says no charge. They're the only website that puts in the words no charge. They can't say free. They can't say the dirty F word, the four-letter F word. So they put no charge. And this takes you to the bland Tist2Web information page, where we enter either our VIN number, so we can get our calibration ID, or we can enter our calibration verification number. Again, that's going to be information that we can get from our original module, and we can enter it in here as well. That's going to be from our OBD2 or EOBD generic mode 9 information. So once we get that information entered and we submit it, basically it's going to give us a list of calibrations that are going to be applicable to our vehicle, and we're going to have to actually search and actually find very much in the same manner as we did with Chrysler and Ford to verify that our programming is needed. Once we determine that our programming is necessary for this, then we're going to go to the website to actually purchase the subscription. Now, you have to be very careful when purchasing a subscription from General Motors because they have many different options. You can get service programming only. You can get diagnostics only. They have the GDS software emulator available, which is for the later model 2010 and up vehicles. So be careful. You want to make sure you get service programming subscription that will allow you to download the software off the website. Okay, so just be careful when you get to that point. And then finally, once programming information is located, it can be downloaded onto your laptop, a desktop computer, or a compatible scan tool. We are going to go over the hardware necessities um, on part 2 of programming. So just to keep in mind, we are going to tell you the rest of the story on part 2. At this point in time, are there any questions? If there's any questions, we'd like for you to type them in on a box on the right-hand side of your screen. As a matter of fact, I do want to add one more piece of information, actually two more pieces of information. Uh, just for reference, the J2534 standard or regulation applies to ECM, PCM, and TCM programming only. Okay, that's modules that actually have direct effect or direct control of drivetrain operation. Okay, and that's it. So any body control modules, EBCMs, or any other modules, uh, the J2534 standard does not apply to this. Now, you might get an aftermarket tool that allows you to do some programming on BCMs or EBCMs or even transfer case control modules for that matter, but basically it's not a requirement. So just to keep that part in mind. And then finally, if you want to copy down a website, just for reference, because these are like the enforcers of the J2534 standard, it's www.nastf.org. Again, that's www.nastf.org. Okay, and they're like an aftermarket advocate site, and they are going to have a lot of information available on that website direct to the OEM, any problems that might be in process of resolution, any non-compliance issues or anything like that. So just to keep that in mind, it's very important to know that there is somebody out there fighting for us. And a sidebar note, while I'm giving you some time to get any questions together, um, the Nissans, there's been many questions about the RE5, RO5As. I've been following them very closely. They are still on the non-compliant list, just to keep that in mind. They have had issues with the programming being compatible with the J2534 standard. And you can download it, but you can't upload it onto the modules using aftermarket pass-through. You can only do it with the Consult 3 Plus, which is the factory latest tool. And that's the only way we can do those as of right now. And I will update as I get information. So again, programming is a moving target, but this information is meant to actually give you greater opportunity to retain more control of your jobs and give you an option other than the OEM so that you can actually control your repair from start to finish. And with that in mind, we want to take that intimidation out, and that's the whole purpose behind these webinars, this and part number 2, to get you in a mode where you can do this yourself and feel comfortable doing it. Because it's going to be like building a 350 after a while, or should I say, be like building a 4L60E for the more modern guys here. I'm dating myself. Now, when you receive the email invitation to the webinar, there should be a place to click and download the Adobe PDF file of the presentation handout material. Also, there is an icon that you can click on to be placed on an email list for future webinars. An invitation will be emailed automatically when future webinars are scheduled. You can also invite a friend. So again, this is information and training at your fingertips. It doesn't get any better than this. And like I said, I encourage you to attend the upcoming webinars here. I see I have a question coming in here. Let's see what we got here. All right. The question is coming from Bob. Let's see, I have heard that there is some conflict with running multiple OEM drivers on one computer. Can you list which ones are okay to run on the same drive and ones that are in conflict? Okay, Bob, that's a very good point. I'm going to answer that very candidly. I recommend to keep them all separate. There are a few that are okay that play together. I would encourage you to contact me directly to discuss that a little bit because I'll put it this way. The ones that I know that don't like to play with others are Ford and Toyota. Those two, if you invariably have to keep those separate if you're going to be running the factory OEM system. Now, as far as just downloading information from OEM, I always recommend to do your download, do your programming and everything on that one vehicle, and then once you're finished, just clear it off. Don't leave anything on memory. After you finish with it, just clear it. That way you start fresh and you can actually, go from, a Toyota to a Chrysler to a GM. Because basically, as far as using different computers, that mostly applies to the OEM's driven software applications where you have a dedicated software that is downloaded from the OEM, which again, I'm going to discuss more on the Part 2 section. And that way, yeah, those computers are not going to be, those programs aren't going to be compatible for the most part. Toyota and Ford are the big ones. Okay, I have another question here. Let's see. Question from Ernesto. So, will there be coverage for Euro reprogramming? Yes, there's going to be a limited coverage for Euro programming. I'm trying to stay mostly on the mainstream for those beginners because Euro programming is, I would consider that advanced because when you get into vehicles like BMW, then those are what you call live reprograms where you're actually directly connected through the internet, through your pass-through device, through your computer and everything, and you are downloading directly from the OEM site, which is a timed connection. And that's something totally different than what we're talking about here. In this case, with a basic J2534 reprogramming, we're actually retrieving the program first, independent of hooking up to the vehicle. Then once we get that information on our laptop or our scan tool, then we're connecting to the pass-through device in the vehicle, and we're downloading from the laptop or the device that we're using into the vehicle. So that is a little bit more advanced. Ernesto, I would, if you have any specific questions, you can email, and actually, if there's something specific, you can email, and I'll do everything I can to address your questions if you should have some more. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, this was wonderful. Again, it's a moving target. Programming is a moving target, but don't be scared. It's more money in your pocket, more control, so you don't have to bring your vehicles to the dealership and have your customer listen to the dealer tell you got a bad transmission when you know it's not right. So again, thank you very much for attending today's webinar and looking forward to you attending many more in the future. Thank you and have a good day.